You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
You know, the most important thing to remember about carpet, no matter what anybody tells you, it's neither a car nor a pet. That and other deep thoughts coming your way. It's Monday night at 7 p.m. You're with us, and that can mean only that it is time for Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Holly Amos. Tonight we are covering the penultimate episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3 Vox. We're finally getting some answers to those burning questions like who or what is Jack? Finally. And can you trust anybody under the age of 30, really? It's time for you to help us. You guys know what to do. You can comment in the chat, obviously, or you can give us a call, 669-900-6833, or, the Zoom link on your smartphone, the one tap and all of that jazz. Enter the meeting code and password that you see in the show notes, and then you'll be in the Earl Green room.
Yeah, you will. Holly, are you glad that I left the word penultimate in the script?
Well, it's easier to pronounce because
antepenultimate.
I had to have Google pronounce it for me. Well, here's the thing is there's a lot of words in life that you read.
Yeah.
And then you don't ever hear them said out loud, and then you mispronounce it and people make fun of you. And it's just
the thing that always drove me insane, it was like a Three Amigos kind of thing where people would hear the word penultimate and thought that it meant better than ultimate. So it was like in the Three Amigos when they think that infamous is better than famous. And then and they just completely use the word wrong. But yes, penultimate, antepenultimate, another great word. I'm glad that we have had this time together. So welcome everybody to the show. Glad to have you here while we are waiting for you to line up in the Earl Green room. Let's see who is with us tonight in the chat. Let me look over here off to the side. Okay, let's see. Scott Paul, I'm glad to see you. James Kerwin. Hey, Kerwin. Good to see you, my friend. John Arminio, glad you're there. Sam Kitchen, Cosmo, Chris Riker, Dave Taylor, probably another Dave. Speak of the devil, another Dave right there. Let's see. We got Mark. We got Alan. We got Heather. We got Paul, probably another Paul in the offing, I'm sure. There's Drew, Carlos, who is finally in our Discord. Glad to see you there. Jane, also another Patreon member. A lot of Patreon showing up tonight for us. Brandon, Dom, so glad to see you all. By the way, Bob Amos was in there, but I think my feed refreshed. So always shout out. Yes, always a shout out to Bob.
Chris Riker is also asking questions that I have answers to.
Okay. All right. I'm already, you keep those running because I'm getting a glimpse of these and there are some very good questions happening.
Chris Riker is asking, can anyone confirm whether the computer was made from stock audio? Yes, it is stock audio. Mm-hmm. It's actually from two different episodes that they spliced together. The announcing of the command of the ship being sent to Picard is from Chain of Command, and that's when he got command back from Jellicoe. And then the first part of it where she says authorization acknowledged is from Starship Mine.
There we go. Perfect. And by the way, Chris also asked, did Geordi rebuild Livingston? Kerwin said too soon. And Kerwin
I didn't even think about the fish.
Why did you not even think about the fish?
I don't know why. Well, maybe because we didn't see the ready room.
Maybe.
We only saw the turbo lift in the bridge. We haven't seen. I mean, I don't think they built the ready room or the observation lounge.
Nobody thinks about poor Livingston.
I think about Livingston all the time, but only in context of the ready room.
Okay. Fair enough. And by the way, of course, we're both coming from an expertly rebuilt Enterprise D bridge, just like to point out. That it's 100% accurate. So I don't want to hear any guff from anybody. All right, Holly, before we get into the show, let's talk about what is coming up on Mission Log this week. So our coverage of Voyager continues Thursday with Alter Ego, the one where Harry Kim and Tuvok are in the awkward position of getting jealous over the same virtual woman. Holly, what else is happening in Mission Log land?
Mission Log the Orville and Mission Log Prodigy, they're both available as podcasts and video. So if you want to catch up on recent episodes, like Prodigy did a review of our friend Rob Perlman's book Supernova. But you can go to podcast.roddenberry.com. You click on the show of your choice and you can find the audio feed as well as the YouTube channel for each show. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/Roddenberry Entertainment. And then you can get all of our podcasts at podcast.roddenberry.com.
That's what you do. Thank you so much for that. Okay, without any further ado, because we got some great callers lined up already. Cannot wait to talk to them. Oh, yeah. Let us recap Picard Season 3, Episode 9, Vox. Deanna is walking Jack through his memories and encouraging him to look behind the mysterious door in his mind. He's scared, but she is so reassuring that she's right there with him, hand in hand, and will never abandon him no matter what. Nope, it's the Borg, guys. The Borg are behind the door. So Deanna gets the hell out of there and runs off to tattle to the others. First up, he's dangerous. He needs to be sequestered, kept an eye on, whatever, because he has the ability to get into people's minds. It's a Borg thing, evolved as a bit of biological tech from back when Jean-Luc was assimilated. That Ironic syndrome the Admiral had, not real. For him, at least, it was an anomaly, a symptom of whatever the Borg had done, and he passed that along to Jack. But now, Jack, having been given the news, is more determined to get out of there, and he does so by stealing the shuttle, going off to find the Borg Queen on his own, because he thinks if he gets close enough, maybe he can take her out. Now, that is a futile mission, but all Beverly and Jean-Luc can do is watch as he flies away. Soon enough, he is pulled into a transwarp conduit, encountering a Borg cube where he is greeted by the Queen's voice welcoming him home. And then because he can't bring himself to kill the Queen, Jack, so named Vox, is assimilated. Back on the Titan, this is the exposition you've been looking for. Jean-Luc was assimilated, of course, and his genetic code rewritten as a kind of super receiver by the Borg. That's why his original body was stolen from Daystrom. Meanwhile, Jack, being the chip off the old block that he is, grew up to be a kind of Borg transmitter, which is why he's bouncing around in people's heads. How? Well, I don't really know yet, since those people haven't been assimilated yet. In any case, the combo of changelings and Borg is a frightening prospect. Titan needs to get to Earth for Frontier Day right away, where the entire fleet is assembled. And that fleet is getting underway with the ceremonies. Admiral Shelby takes the Enterprise F out for a spin while addressing those assembled. Data, Geordi, and Beverly have been making progress along the way, getting at the heart of a terrible revelation. The changelings have been infiltrating Starfleet with the purpose of inserting transporter code based on Picard's DNA. That part of him that was biologically still Borg, well, now it's in anyone who has been using a transporter. As Titan finally gets in range, Picard makes a last desperate plea to Shelby to stop whatever she's doing, but communications are cut off and it's too late. All ship systems are taken over by the Borg formation code, stripping away any individual control. Seven is in pain as her Borg implants react, but it's the youngest of the crew who are most severely affected. The transporter code that was implanted into them is most effective in a species before they reach full development. Humans under 25, like Mura and LaForge on Titan's bridge, are answering to the Queen now, not Captain Shaw. The older members of the crew might be safe, except for people like Shelby, who get shot with phaser fire by her own assimilated crew. It is chaos. The whole of Starfleet have been assimilated, and the younger of the crew turn on the older, unassimilated to eliminate them. Titan's literally senior staff and special guest managed to get out of the way, and hearing a last message from Excelsior broadcast on a maintenance channel before she's destroyed by the Borg, that gives Shaw an idea. Those who are not assimilated will meet on the unoccupied maintenance level and try to escape in a shuttle that way. They fight their way out as more assimilated crew approach, but there is one casualty, Captain Shaw, who in his dying breath turns command over to his number one, 7 of 9. She and Raffi, attending to him and holding off the Borg, stay behind. The assimilated fleet turns its attention on destroying space dock and Earth defenses as the escape shuttle makes its way to a place Geordi knows so well, the Fleet Museum. There, he has a ship, an older ship, analog, that isn't connected to the broader network. It's the Enterprise D, salvaged from Viridian 3 with some bits of the USS Syracuse thrown in. On board the last operational Starfleet ship not connected to the network, Jean-Luc Picard takes command and asks his friends if they are willing to take a mission with him once again. They remind him that their families are affected by the latest threat, and they too, assembled here, are family. They're all in it together. The word is given, and with an engage, the Enterprise D flies at maximum warp toward Earth. The end. What? I didn't intend to make you cry, Holly. You know that.
You're just crying like 75% of the time this episode was on.
Were you really? Did it? Yes. It pulled at you that strongly? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Shelby coming up, I was like, because I've always wanted to know, she was in some of the books, but I've always wanted to know what happened to her, and she finally gets her official name in this, Elizabeth, which was her name in the New Frontier books, presumably after the actress, but that's now canon. Yay. So I cried when she came on. Well, I got a scary cry when it was revealed the Borg. So and then I was crying from then on, over something. Okay.
Well, anybody who has not seen it, if you don't follow Holly on Twitter, you did post clips of your reaction video. And there's some really golden stuff. So I gotta tweet a few more. I just have to isolate them out of this 40-minute video, 40 plus. So, but the one that I tweeted was me mentioning the carpet right before Picard mentions it, which was a complete coincidence. Yeah. Some great stuff in here for sure. And I will admit, because I'm ready to get into the calls, definitely there's so much. Earl said the green room is definitely Hollywood Squares tonight. So glad to see that. And we do have some great calls lined up. I got to admit, this series has been doing this thing to me where I watch it once and I feel very cynical and very turned off from the whole thing. I watch it again and I do soften up. There are things here where I still need to put on my critical hat, different from the writer's hat, but it is the critic hat, and say, okay, am I being played? Are my reactions genuine, or are these reactions that I am supposed to have? Mm-hmm. So I keep second guessing, but I can't wait to find out if our audience is on the same journey here with us in their critique of the show. So let's go ahead and welcome our first caller tonight, and that would be Brandon.
We're all on the bridge.
Also from the Enterprise D. Incredible.
We're all on the bridge, just from different perspectives.
They're all, and here's the thing, it's such a good job. You can't tell them apart. You can't, it's impossible to tell because they're made within a millimeter's tolerance of each other. So Brandon, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey guys, well, I'm thrilled to be here to discuss this week's episode of Battlestar Trek Galacticard.
Bravo, my friend, bravo.
After this episode, I sort of said to my wife, okay, so you haven't seen Battlestar Galactica. Well, now you have, but well, first I'll start off by saying, Holly, you mentioned Shelby, and I was like, here's our next Star Trek Picard member dead. Remember Shelley? She's dead. As soon as I saw her, I was like, that's too bad that they're going to kill Shelley. And I swear to God, that is exactly what I said. I was like, oh, she's dead. I just wonder how she's going to die. Are they going to blow up the Enterprise F in the same episode they showed it to? Okay, no, she's just going to get shot.
Yeah.
But I feel like I had this moment where we had paused. I'd accidentally backed the video up a little bit, and we'd paused at that last shot of them on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at that, and I said, I feel like this crew, these actors, deserve better. Norm said before that he doesn't envy the writers of new Star Trek, right? Because they have to meet everybody's expectations. I want something that's old, but also new. But trying new things isn't what made this not work for me. It's that as I wrote out the story beats for this episode, there wasn't one that didn't feel completely recycled. So much so that the tires were bald on it. Sure, they've changed some of the adjectives and some of the nouns. You know, it's the Borg broadcasting a signal to young officers through Jack instead of the living weapon broadcasting a signal to other ships through comms. It's a Borg implanting things in the brains of young people who who make the ships not work instead of the Cylons doing that. You know, I said there literally, it was by Ronald D. Moore. Like, guy's pretty connected to Star Trek. It's not just that people predicted things like the Borg being involved or Shaw's death, and somebody else is going to talk about that. It's that people predicted them and then said, but I really hope that's not what happens. That would be like the worst way for that to unfold. And every single time, that's been what it was. And it requires our main characters to be idiots. I mean, last episode, we saw Jack control people. And then they were like, all right, now let's go give him some news that's definitely going to piss him off. And we'll just send 2 security guards, you know, exactly like the person that he took over in the last episode. And that'll be enough. And we'll leave the car unlocked again with the keys in it so he can steal the shuttlecraft and fly away.
Sure, that's what you do.
And then Jack takes his dumb pills and says, I definitely am going to be able to outfox and defeat the woman who literally is in my brain.
Yeah.
And
who his father just told him, like, you have no idea.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to, okay, all of the young crew are infected with this thing. Oh my God, let's do nothing about it on our own ship. And we'll just hurtle towards where the other ships are going to be all like interconnected. And our plan is just go there and that'll work, right? I'm just watching this and I'm gonna.
No, I hear what you're saying, and that's sort of, well, it's sort of the problem with the way that we do mission log is you're always kind of second guessing, and I'm asking myself, okay, are these beats things that were contrived because it made the most sense for the story they wanted to tell, or was it because they were trying to reach a certain moment that they thought had an emotional beat that they couldn't live without? And that kind of, like, look, there's no one right way or wrong way to do it. And I'm sure it's a combination of all of the above. But I felt like I could sort of sniff those things out. And yeah, whenever you have to make a character make the worst possible choice, even with the cliffhanger, like I was sort of torn on the cliffhanger aspect of it. I was glad that it was kind of a classic cliffhanger in the respect of our characters are in one place. They are now heading into the place where the action will happen. They're now heading into, the worst possible place they could go. What will happen next? It's like the old, it's like the scene of the stagecoach at the edge of the cliff. Like, what will happen in the next episode? Will it fall off the cliff? As opposed to what we get a lot of, which instead of a cliffhanger is more of just like, here's the next mystery we're dangling in front of you. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned next week where we still won't answer that.
I mean, that got a little bit old for me, even at the beginning of this episode where, they're cutting away from Troy and Troy's like pulling herself back. And then she like walks into the room and they're like, what happened? And there's just like my reaction to that was, I have that video too, that maybe I'll post. Because I was like, can you just show us already? I just need to know. Yeah. And then it was a little bit disappointing that it was the Borg from the standpoint of, I feel like a lot of people already said that that's like you said, Brandon, that people were like, oh, it's probably the Borg, and that would not be great because we've already explored the Borg so much, but they're also still, in my opinion, the scariest adversary, and all of the new stuff that they were, being able to assimilate people through the transporters is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's
that they're adding things to the Borg that I'm almost 37 years old and I'm like, that's the scariest thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
I do like that this series has raised the stakes. It's like, if you're going to bring back all these classic villains, you do have to change up how they look, how they act, and what they can do. So that's cool to have. Okay, we have changelings, but now there's something different about them that they don't even fully understand, but they're certainly taking advantage of it. And with the Borg, I think that's a pretty cool contrivance that there's a piece of them that never really lets go. Like we see that physically with Seven of Nine, and even with Jean-Luc, we think like, oh, okay, well, he's definitely not Locutus anymore, but it's a nice tie back to even First Contact. He's still haunted by those voices, you know? So I definitely want to give this show the benefit of the doubt in that respect. How do you make it the same, but also different to try to thread that needle for a bunch of very picky Star Trek fans like ourselves, you know? But at the end of the day, I'm always going to ask myself, okay, but what's the point? What is the story that you felt like you had to tell here with these characters, not just the beats you had to get to?
And I feel like that's what's missing. And I mean, I think that they did some really cool stuff with the Borg in season 1. The whole thing with the artifact and the idea that here's this galaxy post-Borg destruction and these ships are just floating lifeless and empty, but still terrifying. And it's like this haunted mansion that people are going through and trying to figure out what can we learn. I would have even been like, oh, okay, so the changelings took some of that and did some cool stuff with that. And it's evil and nefarious that they're doing this. And that still would get that sort of scary, but still be new and interesting. It's that it feels that we've been here, but we've been here before. And we've been here before in this series. We've been here before in Star Trek. And we've been here this year.
Yeah, I think there's always like two things that I'm wondering about as I'm nostalgia heavy stuff. I don't want it to feel like, and I kind of feel like this is what they did, that they came up with the ending and then had to work backwards to come up with the story to get to it. Which, listen, I'm not a writer. I don't claim to be a writer. But it becomes obvious at some point where they work backwards. The other thing about nostalgia heavy stuff is that I'm always asking myself whether or not it feels like genuine and organic. And I feel like given the rest of the storyline, the Enterprise D coming in at the end does feel organic, but then I get into a headspace where I'm like, this is what they wanted. This was the end game. And they worked the story backwards from that.
Yeah.
And you can tell because they built the TV show bridge instead of the last kind of Enterprise D bridge that we saw. So, I mean, you could say Geordi just felt nostalgic, so he did a remodel.
Yeah, I mean, I will give it to them for that. Like, if the Enterprise D was badly damaged enough,
sure.
Like any historic thing that is restored, you got to pick to which point you're restoring it. So I can kind of give them that. By the way, just to acknowledge, Kerwin here in the chat said they built an analog ship in the 24th century. And, you know, to me, I'm picturing, you know, Jules Verne style, everything running off gears and mechanics. My question was like, and obviously they mean that it's something that is not connected to this greater network, which somehow means that like Bluetooth didn't make it during that period of the 24th century during construction of the Enterprise D. So kind of an interesting choice. You would think that they would all be pretty thoroughly networked at that point.
My mom is asking if the Borg Queen is Agnes from last season.
See, well, okay, and look, and let's see.
And that would have made sense, but it's Alice's voice. So
yeah, and here's another mystery reveal that okay, it's the Borg Queen, but we never see the face of the Borg Queen in this episode. So that's another thing you have to wait to see in the next episode.
Somehow the Borg Queen returned.
I actually didn't think of Agnes. I actually, like, my brain for some reason went to Annie, but then I was like, oh no, I don't. It can't be Annie.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, we got a ton of callers lined up, and any final thought here before we jump over to Chris, who is next?
Yeah, I'll be real quick and just say that at least there's a new good thing for people over 25. You know, you sort of run out of things to be excited about. Well, now you can rent a car, your insurance is cheaper, and you can't get transporter assimilated.
You can also run for president.
That's the best thing. All of that is great.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Brandon, thanks so much. Take care and have a good night.
Take care, guys.
All right. Let's welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how's it going? Also hanging out there with the Enterprise D. How are you tonight?
Doing good, hanging out with the G. Yeah. I think this episode, I think it's really like a really good litmus test for season 3 as a whole. Like, your reaction to this is like, that tells you what you think about season 3 as a whole. And basically it comes down to, does the good, like, character moments with the TNG stuff outweigh the way they have sort of wasted or misused everyone else? And for me, it's like 70-30. Like, I like the TNG folks, but I also would have liked the other folks to have done something more.
Yeah. You know, look, I don't want to spoil a conversation that I know that Norman and I will have in a couple of weeks when we come back and do a season recap, but it really comes down to that. It's like, for people who have been critical of the show for the story that it's trying to tell versus people who are perfectly willing to say, like, I don't care about the missteps. I just care about seeing that cast on that bridge. And if that is the thing that tips the scales for you and it totally fulfills what you need out of the show, good. I hope that 10 hours is worth it, you know, in that respect. But I think that's a deeper thing that we'll get into in a couple of weeks. So, so stay tuned for that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't want to step on anybody's toes because I know we got a lot of people on the back, but I do have a very important quibble. So on the title card, this week is Vox. On the title card, the O has a little tilde. As a Latin minor, we don't have tildes in Latin. That's not a thing. Like, yes, you could say that Latin, right, incoming. You could say that they were trying to denote the fact that the O is long because it's followed by an X, because X is, that's a rule. But we don't have tildes. It would have just been a bar. So that was my Latin minor coming out. I was like, we don't have tildes. What are you doing?
That seems like the thing that would get checked out by another set of eyes before they commit to a title.
Yeah, and I thought I saw I think it was Kerwin saying that there was an Enterprise episode that was Vox without a diacritic, and that they needed a diacritic for SAG, whatever. But again, I'm like, don't use a tilde. They don't have tilde.
No.
Pick a bar. Like, it's a straight line in Latin. Is like a regular straight line and not a curve.
Well, the Enterprise episode was Vox Sola, and it doesn't have that. By the way, this is the 16th Star Trek episode that's title is in Latin. Fun fact.
Interesting.
Latin and Shakespeare, the go-tos.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, excellent comments, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. And any final thought before you?
God, I hope they stick to landing.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly what it comes down to, and that's so interesting because we'll of course have to look back at the entire season and look at the story as a whole, as it is with these heavily serialized shows. I mean, this is kind of the way it is, right? All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we will see you very soon again, I hope.
All right, see you around, man. Bye.
All right, thank you. Kerwin saying in the chat here, the tilde drove me crazy. And I wonder, is that in Vanilla Sky or in Constantine? You can let us know. It's a little Tilda Swinton joke for everybody. Sorry, I'll see myself out. Let's go to John Arminio. He'll definitely raise the caliber of conversation here.
Ooh.
How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself, John?
I'm doing okay tonight. Thanks. And what is on your mind tonight?
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of real convenient plotting going on with like, hey, the whole fleet is now networked, and coinky dink, the big twist is that the Borg is arriving.
Who could see that coming?
Yeah, wow, amazing. So can we talk about best counseling practices?
Oh, please.
For a second.
Yes.
So Troy has been a counselor for going on 40 years. And when a patient reveals something that he's been keeping secret, his, base trauma, it's revealed to her, and she immediately runs from the room and goes to the patient's dad and says, "Your kid is messed up."
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe the whole killing spree could have been avoided, maybe if the most empathetic character in that whole cast did the thing that her species does, which is show empathy.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess, I think a few weeks ago I was hoping that we got some good scenes with Marina Sirtis acting, being able to sink her teeth into Troy the way that Jonathan Frakes was able to sink his teeth into Riker.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the opportunity for the writers to do that, especially with, how sort of wonky Troy was written on TNG. And it just felt like the writing failed the character in that moment for the conveniences of the plot. And I think that speaks to a weakness with serialized television as a whole. All right, we have to get to the twist to reveal what Jack is. And there's so much about this series that I like, but it just seems to be getting in its own way over and over again.
You're definitely striking a chord here in the chat. Jane says Starfleet Mental Health Services apparently is taken over by some alien entity. And then Brandon saying there really, as far as privacy goes, there really isn't any. Yeah, no privacy ever. And that has been kind of a familiar thing that we talk about on Mission Log. It's like, look, anytime somebody walks into a room and says, computer, play so-and-so's personal log.
That's fair. I was going to talk about, to be fair, like Counselor Troy from the state, like a lot of stuff that we see that she goes and tells people about, which under normal circumstances, like that's supposed to be confidential because you are technically you fall under the guise of a doctor and you're not supposed to HIPAA, you're not supposed to, unless they're a danger to themselves or in this case, the universe is going to get destroyed. So we're always seeing things at really high stakes.
Yeah,
is the problem.
And to be fair, Dom in the chat here is saying this is an active threat situation. So I get it, but it is
right.
And
we're not seeing mundane conversations in any of the episodes where it's not something that's threatening the universe because that's not what the show is. So.
Carlos says Beverly kept a secret for 25 years. Deanna, 25 seconds. Well played.
Yeah, and I guess that is something that maybe if Beverly was more honest with Jean-Luc about that he had a son, maybe we could have cut this off.
Right.
In puberty or something. I don't know. So
yeah,
it just feels like the writing room at the beginning of the season was like, all right, how are we going to get everybody on the Enterprise D again?
Yeah, that's the working backwards. That's the end game, and they write it backwards.
Right.
And I see these actors just hit their stride so perfectly. It seems like give LeVar Burton a second and a half of screen time and it'll just make me want to cry.
Yeah.
No matter what he's doing. But when it's in the service of trying to make me surprised that the Borg is going to show up, it's just, it feels like they're not taking our intelligence seriously and are just sort of leaning back on old tropes. Over and over again. And I like you said, I know it's not easy to write new Star Trek.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I fully agree with the premise of what you're saying. As you're saying it, I'm thinking about all the other times in Star Trek up to this point where you or I or anybody else in this fandom has a conversation where it's not the big plot points that we talk about as being the memorable moment, but it is these small character moments. And I feel like in this, where you've got 10 hours to tell a single story, where these things do get stretched out, okay, what am I going to walk away with? I may be a lot less impressed with the reveal of the Borg, but as you're saying this, you're talking about how great LeVar's performance is. And one of my notes is just saying these little scenes of Geordi and Data just being in a room working on a problem. Like, those are gold. Those are so good. And you can only earn so many of them in a show because you do have to tell the story. You do have to make the plot move along. I love Seven saying about Data, the robot's right. And then his reaction to that line, just absolutely gold. Like, those are the things that I will remember a year from now or 5 years from now or whatever, was how good that chemistry was. So, but the difficulty is then, we've got 10 hours to tell a single story with a single arc, and it can wear on you.
And I think that, coming so soon after something like Strange New Worlds, where it seemed like we got those character beats much more common just because of the way the show is structured.
Right.
And we certainly did, like, when Shaw is giving his history with Picard and the Borg and how he's just a son of a bitch from Chicago and all that stuff. We certainly got that. But with how heavily serialized Picard has been season to season, we just don't get enough of those moments. And I do feel that this season is stronger overall over the previous ones.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think for me personally, it's a little bit of cognitive dissonance because there was a lot of Sturm und Drang going on in the Earl Green room. Some not safe for work conversations.
Yeah.
But a lot of like my Trek fans who aren't involved in mission log are like, oh, this is the best Star Trek has been in 30 years. And I cried 10 times with this episode. And I'm like, I can't find much to get emotional about either way. Like that emotional about it. Like you said, there are like little bits of true like character beats that get at me. But when we had
LeVar got at me when his kids were assimilated too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wonderful moment. Yeah.
Well, not wonderful. That's the wrong word, John.
No, a wonderful acting moment.
Yeah,
Holly.
But
it was horrible.
Yes.
When I see my childhood heroes blatantly sitting down on the for some reason re-engineered Enterprise D again, I'm like, you haven't earned my childhood awe.
Right. Well, that's just it, because we're playing that home game, and I'm trying to separate myself enough to go like, oh, okay, do these moments feel natural? Like, all the actors play the moment so well. But here's the thing. We just had a scene, an episode before, where you get them all around a conference table and they have to acknowledge it. And part of me, like, I get it. It's probably a natural reaction, but it is also a manufactured reaction for TV. Wow, look at us all here. We're all hanging out, and boy, it's been a long time. And then we do it again when we get on the bridge. Sometimes it's like tipping that hand a little heavily. But I will say again what I said at the top of the show, which is watching it through the first time when all of this was fresh, I had a harder time reconciling all of that, putting it together. This is one of those opportunities where when you know what's coming, or at least when I do in my rewatch, when I know what's coming, I kind of sit back and just let it happen a little better, because I'm not waiting for the surprise anymore.
Yeah.
So I was a little more engaged in the action of the scene, But John, I can do this with you all night.
Yeah.
I would love to sometime,
Sure.
But we will move on so we can do a little bit of business and take on some more calls. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hope we see you again soon. All right.
Take care.
All right. So a little bit of business, as I said, and here we are just a little past the bottom of the hour. So we have to give a shout out to our friends over at Star Trek Wines. Of course, you know about Star Trek Picard having Chateau Picard,
Yeah,
because
there you
of
go.
course, yeah, thank you. Because those wine bottles used on the set are what they made at Chateau Picard, what Star Trek wines made for us. And they have filled those bottles with the actual wine from the actual Chateau Picard in France. So I love the meta level of it being the real deal and being the real deal. This is a good time to be a Star Trek fan and collector because you're getting a thing that is high quality, that you can put on a shelf, that you can enjoy for yourself, share with friends, and it is on set accurate. Holly, which of the wines have you tried? I know that you said you've had Chateau Picard.
I've tried all of them. I actually like.
Hell yeah, I have.
I've only owned the 22, 21, but I've tried all of them, and I'm always a little bit trepidatious about like licensed beverages like that.
That's your world, yeah.
Well, in the past we've not had the most fantastic ones. There was some that came out of Star Trek: The Experience that felt a little bit slapped together. And
I agree with that.
This is not that.
Yeah.
But that's because it's coming from the real deal.
Exactly. One of the things that I really like about that 2221, oh, wait, no, I believe it's on the 2401, has the silicone top that looks like the dipped wax, the black wax top, dripped. And the fact that it's in silicone so you can reuse it and it looks perfect, it's so great. Like those little details are amazing.
Yeah.
Now, our friends at Star Trek Wines have done us all a solid. The medallion, the United Federation of Planets medallion, if you go to the site, StarTrekWines.com, and you add that medallion to your cart, then you use our checkout code Roddenberry, you get the medallion for free. And then you can do whatever you want to with it. Some people put it on like coffee mugs, they put it on bowls, they put it all kinds of stuff. You can kind of shape it a little bit to fit where you want, but you can get that for free by using our code Roddenberry at checkout. So get yourself or a friend a nice bottle of wine, get that medallion for yourself for free, and enjoy. Tell them that we sent you. Visit StarTrekWines.com today for limited edition Chateau Picard, Klingon Blood Wine, Canar, and many, many more. Use our special code Roddenberry at StarTrekWines.com at your checkout for an exclusive United Federation of Planets medallion for free. That is the word.
I'm gonna get that. Free. I'm gonna get the white and the rosé for summer.
Oh, do it.
That's what I decided. Yeah,
those bottles are gorgeous.
Yes, they're beautiful. I saw them in your office and was like, yeah, I have to buy those too.
And then you'll reuse those bottles, I'm sure, because they had the vino stopper. Yeah. All right.
Keep putting white wine. You reuse it.
Get your cheap stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, let us welcome our next caller, and that is from the Enterprise D Bridge. It's
Shocking.
Cosmo. Welcome, Cosmo. How you doing tonight?
Good.
What's on the chair, though?
That is a lionfish from the Ready Room, Mr.
That's
Livingston.
what I was like. Is that Livingston?
It's Livingston. It
Just
is
hanging out, taking over for Deanna.
position of power. Yeah.
We haven't seen the Ready Room yet. I'm hoping Geordi, when he restored the Enterprise D, also got Livingston's home back. I was hoping he was behind the red door, and he was bitter that Picard got his stupid photo album and then left him there. And so he was the mastermind behind the changelings, but oh well.
That's the story I want to see. Yeah.
It's been interesting hearing other callers' opinions. And in my Star Trek Twitterverse, it was all very, very positive and a little bit of hyperbole saying it's the best episode of Star Trek ever. But I haven't encountered much negativity. And so it's been nice to hear some different takes on it. I must be just a pretty simple guy. And the member berries worked on me really well.
And it worked on me too.
Throughout the episode, I was disappointed it was the Borg, and I had several plot issues. But once that last 10 minutes hit, it washed everything away, and I didn't care. I was emotional. I was welling up when Majel Barrett's voice that pushed me over the top, and actual tears came on. And that all worked for me. And I know it's fan service, but for me it worked. And I know they worked backwards in the script to how do we get to this point, but it hit me in the heart and I didn't care. I'm willing to forgive all the plot issues. And I was afraid as it was going on that as soon as they opened up Bay 12, that was when the episode was going to end. And I was so glad that it gave us that whole 10 minutes. And I was just bathing in it. And I think I watched it that last 10 minutes 5 times, Thursday and Friday. And
look, I got to hand it to him because I've said before on Mission Log that the Enterprise D is not my favorite Enterprise. It is not my favorite ship. I know.
That is a shame.
We can talk about that later. I know you love the D. But I loved the way this model looked. I loved the way this CG model looked. I thought it was stunning. It was absolutely beautiful. And I really look, it might have been a bit heavy-handed shooting on the bridge the way they did, but that space looks better when it is colored a bit more with light. And we made a point of talking about that in our coverage of Generations, because the name of the DP is I not on the top of my head, but it was the same person who shot Chinatown. And that movie is painted with light in this beautiful way. And I thought they brought a bit of that back here. So if I'm seeing it, at least I got to see it with somewhat fresh eyes. And I'm definitely not immune to the emotion of nostalgia that was there. So I'm glad it hit you the way that it did for sure.
Yeah, and the D is my favorite ship. So yeah, and
I know that. Yeah.
Every single sound effect was accurate. The warp noise is very distinct in TNG. Yes. So just every single thing was nailed. And
I want to hear a shuttle bay open. That's my favorite. That's my favorite sound.
There you go.
John, do you have a favorite ship?
Oh yeah, the refit. Yeah,
okay.
refit Enterprise for sure. By the way, and I'm taking the heat in the chat. Let's see, Scott Palm, bad John, bad. And then Paul Wright, you're wrong, John Champion. So this is great. Yes, we could definitely have that covered. And then an happy belated. So yes, it's a
one thing that irked me,
good to balance out the bad. Yeah.
One thing that irked me upon a second viewing of it, the last 10 minutes, was Picard orders Data to set course and engage, even though he's in the ops chair, and Geordi is at nav and used to pilot the ship. So I was like, wait a minute, why? But again, I didn't care because we heard Majel Barrett's voice. And right before that happened, I was thinking to myself, oh, they should have Majel, and then it happened. And my hope for next week, they've dug themselves such a big hole. Like, how on earth is one ship going to defeat this? I hope it's not an Independence Day / Avengers type thing where you defeat the central thing and all the other drones go away and all the people get unboarded. I hope it's not that.
Oh no. Okay.
I hope Picard doesn't give a speech about the power of love to Jack, and then Jack chooses love, and then he's the one that saves the day. But I really have no idea where it's going to go.
I have no idea either. I just want Geordi to have his girls back. I feel really bad.
Yep. Yeah. And I want Riker and Troy to survive and move off of the Nepenthe and go have fun. And you mentioned Agnes earlier, and it's so bizarre that season 2 ended with the Agnes Borg, friendly Borg, standing by at that spatial anomaly where there's a big threat. And now we've got this stuff going on, and I don't know if she's going to come in and save the day, but that's just weird that was how season 2 ended, and now we're here.
Yeah. And especially to get that line. Now, of course, Beverly has been in other places, but for her to say, we haven't had an encounter with the Borg in a decade. And I'm like,
incorrect.
Did you watch the last 2 seasons? Because they were there. Cosmo, we're going to say goodbye because we've got a fabulous lineup of callers tonight. So many people. We're going to run a little bit late. Apologies, but I really can't wait to hear from everybody. So thank you, my friend, for your call. We'll see you soon. By the way, this is a great rhetorical question thrown out there, which we will dare not answer here live. We may have to think about it a bit. Kerwin in the chat. So when doing member berries, is it better to go the Picard season 3 route or the Strange New World season 1 finale route, recasting and changing things? That is one to ponder, and I look forward to seeing what people post and reply to that in the chat. So let us go to our next caller, and that is Alan. By the way, I listened to last week's Mission Log Live. Of course, you, sir. Bravo. 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 Well done. You did
John.
voices. You did. It was a whole thing. Well done, man.
There may be more.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Just wait.
I wasn't going to force you into it, but I guess that's wait, more tonight or more next week?
More tonight.
Right now.
Okay,
Right.
let's do it. Let's do it. Here we
as soon
go.
as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, sometimes in the mission log, we try to fix things by putting on the riding hat. Well, tonight I'm putting on the singing hat.
Yes. Yes.
This is for our dearly departed friend, Captain Liam Shaw. Everyone considered him the coward of the Starfleet. He never gave one order to prove that they were wrong. His mama named him Liam, from Chicago, but something in the plotline said we're reading Liam wrong. There's a ship for everyone, and Liam's was the Titan. In that chair, he didn't have to prove he was a man. One day the Borg returned, and they came assimilating. They took over the Titan, while the TNG crew ran. Promise me, Shaw, run your ship without a flaw. Just warp away from trouble if you can. It won't mean that you're uncool if you follow every rule. I hope you've served enough to understand. You don't have to fight for your command. Key change. But 30 years of running was bottled up inside him. Didn't hold his phaser back. He let them have it all. When Liam hit the floor, not a Borg drone was left standing. He said, "Now go, Picard," as he watched the last one fall. And I heard him say, "I promised Starfleet I'd keep my ship real neat. I'd warp away from trouble if I can. But there's nothing else to do when the Borg mutates your crew. Now, Seven, I hope you understand. Sometimes you gotta fight for your command." Everyone considered him the coward of the Starfleet.
Oh my God. Bravo. Bravo.
Oh my God.
Knockout.
Oh.
That's incredible. Look, everybody who's going to follow you, they've got a lot to live up to. That was fantastic. Thank you. I'm touched and honored that you share your talents with us and everybody who listens to this show. So you're getting mad applause here.
As George Carlin once said, these are the thoughts that kept me out of the really good schools.
Heather's saying somebody needs to tag Todd.
Yes.
Oh,
truly.
Oh my.
Truly.
Oh my. I will.
Well, Alan, because we do have a lot of other callers, and I'm curious, do you have, I mean, look, you can't top yourself, but I'm curious if you have any kind of succinct thought here about the episode. And
I'll try to throw in a couple of quick ones.
Okay.
Ditto with Brandon from earlier about the Battlestar situation. Again, Admiral Adama would not be pleased. We should have learned this lesson with Discovery Season 2 finale, or the Prodigy finale, or the Lower Deck Season 3 finale.
Yeah.
Don't link the ships.
Yeah.
But here we are again. I did get feelings at the end with the Enterprise D and the crew and everything. But just to wrap this back up into Shaw, just to be a little bit more serious than what I just did, and this does seem to be like the end of this version or this phase of his storyline. I've read some spoilers that suggest there might be something else. I'm not going to get into that, but
yeah.
It's kind of hard to comment. You know, I remember being on the show a couple weeks ago with Jesse when they called in, and clearly, you know, the idea of, you know, a trans story or a a story about identity is, not necessarily something that I'm personally feel qualified to talk about. However, I consider myself an ally, and I think I have space to discuss a story about allyship, which I think is what maybe they were trying to do with Shaw. For me, I think that if that was the case, the place to do it was 5 weeks ago. When she says, Sydney calls me Seven because she respects me, maybe that's when he stops calling her Hanson.
Yeah, and
doesn't.
I mean, it became very obvious in this episode why he continued to dead name Seven when it was because they wanted that scene, and I don't necessarily agree with that either.
Yeah, no, I it's like, oh well, this is the big dramatic moment. We have to build to the big dramatic moment.
It was for the drama,
but think of it this way. He stopped. She says that in episode 4. For the next 4 episodes, it's all right, Commander. Let's go talk over here. What is that cute nickname that Picard has? Number 1. Yeah, come over here, Number 1. And then at the end in this episode, instead of that very last moment, what if it's Crusher, LaForge, go, Picard, go, Seven, go, and then he gets hit and dies. Yeah, where it's not, I am going to dub you now 7 of 9 in my eyes because I have learned this great lesson. It's something that he is just internalized, and something that he is that just comes out of him spontaneously because that's how he truly feels.
Well said. Well said. I'm glad that we got to talk about Shaw's death a little bit tonight for sure. I appreciate the call. My God, your songs.
Move it along. All right. Move it right along, everybody.
We will see you soon, Alan. Thank you so much.
I had to do something because I know who's up next. And he usually brings it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
have
take
a good
care,
one,
my
everybody.
Friend. We'll see you soon. And with that, let's bring in Sam. Sam, how you doing tonight? All appropriately TNG style.
Yes.
Good old hoodie.
Yeah. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so there was a lot in this episode, and I think I can understand it was about 50-50 for me too, where it was like, okay, that doesn't work, but then they got me with the nostalgia stuff for sure. When they were on the bridge, because I teared up when they were in the conference room last week, and then when they were on the bridge this week, it one-upped it for me again because I wasn't expecting it to see it in such glory. Especially with the new L cars with they're all screens and all the different buttons are lighting up separately and made it look much more realistic.
Good.
Like visceral. That was cool. So without going into the negative stuff, I want to go into the thing that I found. I think I got the most interesting take on that I do think was kind of new and unique was that, so it is the Borg, but I think this is a new Borg in that they infected the Federation through cyber warfare instead of violence. So that is a totally new way. I mean, it didn't have to be the Borg, but either way, I liked that it was done in secret like that. I was not expecting everyone to have already been pre-assimilated and they just had to be switched on. Right. I did not see that coming at all. And I liked it. I thought it was interesting how they did that by just, I mean, it didn't have to be changelings, but it was changelings that had some biology that snuck in through all the transporters. And they kind of like used this new thing of like, okay, transporters, it turns out, has some efficiencies built in. And they exploited that. So all that and the way you said it before, I think, Holly, was that it's newly terrifying. Like, absolutely. But I think that the interesting part, even more interesting than just that, was the way that it's only the young people, because that has like a whole theme now to it of like, if we talk about the deeper meanings, like what does it mean that only the youth were corruptible. Because that's the take that I saw. It's like, oh, some outside thing's corrupting the youth, and it's the elders who have to come in and save the day. And when I saw them all like taking over the ship, there was a like part of me, even though I'm over 25, so I would be on the elder side, but there was still a part of me that was like, oh, these are like the corrupted. Usually when we say corrupted the youth, it means we've actually given them freedom of thought, and now they're doing their own thing and they're rebelling. So this was the opposite of that, but there was still that part of me that was like, wait a minute, I kind of was rooting for them just because of that dynamic. And I had to remind myself, like, no, they're not doing this. It's the opposite of freedom. They're just completely drones at that point. But I liked that dynamic. And I just want to bring up, because I was like trying to figure out what that means. And somebody on the Discord said this. So I want that they thought it was that it was a take that could be taken as it's the mistakes of the elders that have now brought this on the youth and taken away their agency and have basically given them a future that they don't have control, and they're just going to be taken over. So you could see it as a comment that way. But I just liked the dynamic of putting the old against the young. I think that was a very interesting theme to put together.
That you and I are thinking along similar lines, and I think I'm actually going to save my notes about the moral meaning message for our season recap, because there is something I think very important about the idea that it's the people who are under 25 who are corrupted or endangered and endangering the rest of the crew. And there are so many pointed comments about not just older than 25, but older than 50. And look, Deanna has that great line, so glad to see so many wrinkles, like they played with this in a very clever way, but I think there are multiple ways to look at maybe an unintended message of that. So I look forward to coming back to that conversation in a couple of weeks. Sam, thank you so much. We got 3 more people lined up who I definitely want to talk to tonight. So I will see you in the Discord, if not before. All right.
Yep. And sounds good. Thanks for having me. I'll see you.
Take care, man. Be good. All right. Let's jump over to JD, so we got JD, Cherie, and then Rand to wrap things up tonight. So JD, if you are on, what is on your mind tonight?
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. What's up?
Okay. I know it's kind of blasphemy, but I can't. My first reaction when they got on the Enterprise D was, okay, this is just gratuitous. I like all the callbacks. I like the member berries. I like the name drop sometimes, but I don't know if we needed the Enterprise D to be recreated to finish off this season that's supposed to be the end of
I was like, TNG. It's not just the season though, it's the series, and it's presumably, I mean, that's
what I mean is this is supposed to be the end of this season, which is also in turn supposed to be the end of this show.
Yeah.
And I don't really know that we needed the ship that this crew started on to be the ship that they ride into the end. I know why they did it, but I don't think I felt the way about it that the people making this show were hoping that I was going to feel.
Well, see, JD, you're tapping into something that is exactly my big question about a moment like this, which is, yes, I am supposed to feel a certain way about this. And yes, I did have an emotional reaction to it. And yes, I appreciated their reaction, the character's reaction to where they were. I get all of that. And I guess in a vacuum, I can appreciate that. But there is also the question about, what does this say about Star Trek fandom, Star Trek in general, Star Trek as a place for new and bold storytelling? Because one of my takeaways here, which I'll probably revisit in a couple of weeks, is that this is like gently patting fans on the back who have been fans for 30 years to say, it's okay. Your Enterprise, Your Enterprise is the good one, and it's still there. And your favorite characters can still revisit it because they appreciate it as much as you do. And I that's sort of the cynical, like I've been a fan for decades take on it. Whereas there is a part of me that just wants to kind of go along with the flow of the story and appreciate the emotion of the moment, so I'm having very mixed feelings about that, because what you're talking about is exactly that. It's like this moment that is manufactured, but it has to be that ship and has to be with that crew exactly as they are. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind. No, I got on. What I really appreciated was when Picard made the joke about missing the carpet. I laughed.
I did too. Well placed line. Yes.
And I laughed because I sat there and I thought to myself, I think the Enterprise D might be the only ship that we've seen in modern Trek that has carpet. And of course it's because the show started in 1987. There was carpet everywhere. But did the Defiant have carpet? I'm not really sure.
It did. Honestly, all of those ships did and do have carpet. And even going back to my beloved refit Enterprise, carpet all over the place.
Was there carpet on that ship too?
Yeah. Okay. Partly because it makes it really easy to film. The bridge of the TOS Enterprise covered in carpet. But later,
really?
some of the later bridges don't have carpet. They have a textured flooring on them. But
I guess Voyager did have a carpet. It's gray, right?
Yeah. Even the promenade of DS9 has carpet. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like the promenade of DS9 should actually have more carpet. Like
it should have shag, baby.
Yes, because the fashions on Deep Space Nine are there's a certain hotel carpet texture or spirit to most of the fashions on Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
I think that's very fitting. There is one thing about this that I'm not sure of. If it took 900 and some people to run the Enterprise D back then, why do we have 7 people that are going to run the Enterprise D for this? I'm confused.
We've got one more episode to find out.
Yeah, because
I have the same question.
Like, Seven and Rafi didn't go over there with them, and neither did anybody else. So it will be very interesting to see how some of these people are going to be in 6 places at once when this battle starts. Because I think they might all need synth body counterparts, because we're going to need like 3 Geordies to run engineering. We're going to need 3 Crushers to run medical. So
it's gonna be a challenge. By the way, there was mention of drones, and there were somebody, Alan, is mentioning that in chat. Also, Alan says about DS9 that DS9 has bus seat textiles, and he's absolutely correct on that. So JD, thank you very much for calling in tonight. I hate to cut it short. I hope you will call us again sometime. We've got 2 more callers and we're running a bit late. Definitely want to get to them.
Most weeks I do intend to call, and then my attention deficit disorder gets the best of me. And at 11 o'clock Eastern time, I look at the clock. I'm like, damn it, I missed the show again.
Well, you're welcome at any time that you'd like to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And
all right.
The conversation is always a joy to listen to.
I appreciate that greatly. Thank you, LLNP, and we will see you again soon, okay?
Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right. Let us talk to Cherie, our penultimate. She's
which
our penultimate
bridge is
caller.
this?
So many angles.
Somebody. Cherie, welcome as our penultimate caller. That makes JD our anti-penultimate caller. We didn't call him out on that, but good to know that's what he was. Cherie, what is on your mind tonight, my friend?
Well, I want to start off with I agree with, I think it was Cosmo. I must be a simple person. I'm just loving it. I love this season, but am I still going to make fun of stuff that doesn't make sense? Yes, I am. I'm going to do that because that's part of the fun, but I'm having a great time. I love nostalgia, and I did miss the carpet.
Good.
Although I did also notice that they can't fully turn on the light, even on the Enterprise D. Like, it was just like a little dimmer, like in some of the episodes where they had to like dim the lights.
I like that. I like that. To me, it made okay. it made, to me, it makes,
I hate how dark it always is.
It makes the D look more cinematic, a little more mechanical and real, as opposed to what was shot. Because like on TV back in the 80s and 90s, you had to do quick setups and basically everything had to be lit the same. So I love that they just took a little time here and did that slow light up at the panels. And,
I grew up with that. That's, if I was a millionaire,
yes,
the Enterprise D, the original Enterprise D, would be my living room. And I've actually read articles where people have done that. But that's all I want. I just want to live on the Enterprise D. That's all I want.
I want that for you. We will manifest that together. I want that for you in your life. Yes. What else is on tonight?
I did want to say in response to when he was asking how only those few people could run the ship. It just reminds me of that episode where Beverly, where the slowly people are disappearing and she ends up in the ship by herself.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's just that episode. It's
well,
like,
I mean,
you only need Beverly to run the ship.
To be fair, though, like this is a ship that had families on it too. So, there's 900 or whatever people are on it. But a lot of they're not all officers.
Yeah. Yeah. You got
you could have a skeleton crew, but how skeleton, I guess we're going to find out.
You got kids, you got puppies.
You've got Livingston.
You got Livingston. Maybe Cetacean Ops. Maybe they're back. We just know we haven't seen them yet. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know who's all on that ship. Dolphins could still be there. Yeah.
They could.
Jordy's been visiting them. He's been feeding them fish. Yeah.
I hope so. Somebody did. Oh, but not lionfish.
Yeah, not Livingston.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, not that. I also just wanted to throw in, it's very on brand for Star Trek for the transporter device to cause the apocalypse.
Always. I had that thought too. I was like, it's always. How much did Ro know though? Because remember, Ro didn't want to use the transporter. I have a lot of questions about.
Except that she was old enough where it wouldn't have mattered, but maybe she didn't know. Maybe
did she know that?
She might have just seen it was something to do with the transporter, and she's like,
Yeah, transporters always a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, Barkley was right. He was right all along.
Barkley would have been so good in this season too. Like he would have been. I am vindicated.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, but here's the thing. I wonder. So they changed that sort of like saved baseline code in the transporters, but there were enough people like Ro had to have an inkling. Okay, I'm not going to get in the transporter. It's not safe. When did she start not trusting the transporter? And were there changelings? Like, could the changelings go through the transporter and they would not be affected? Because the whole gimmick is that the changelings could pass for a human no matter what. So were they okay going through the transporter and just not affected by that new code?
No.
Yeah. All right. Were they the ones who made
I did. This did make me wonder, like, can changelings even be assimilated? We've never had a precedent for that. We don't know.
That's a scary idea. Yeah.
That would be scary.
Well, maybe we'll find out next week. I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think that would work. But it's all fictional. What do I know?
I do think the Borg are now ageist, though. They're like, ooh, we don't want to catch wrinkles.
I know, right? Yeah. Although they immediately, I don't know if you guys saw the close up of the makeup that Mika, LeVar Burton's daughter, posted, and it looks so cool because it's partly that necrotic look with the veins and stuff, but then you see the circuit board sort of lightly on the skin. It's very, very cool.
I didn't see the circuit board, so I'll have to look back at the...
Yeah. Take a look again, and it's just very light, like airbrushed in there. Very cool looking.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
all right,
scary.
Sheree, if you got one more thought, and then we'll jump over to Rand and wrap this up.
I will say that, like, this is in reference to previous episode, but it still doesn't make sense to me why Section 31 would just be like, let's adapt the changelings into like being even scarier. And they'll love us, right? Like, we just tortured them. Like, why wouldn't they want to work for us?
It'll be fine. Yeah, we'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
There's a bit of hubris there that you kind of hope that this is actually the end of Section 31.
I wish they would just have gone into that plan though, because Section 31 is supposed to be bad, but not stupid. Like, why would you do that?
It depends on who you get that day. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, Sheree, thank you so much for the call, and we will look forward to talking to you again. All right.
Take
you. Take care. Till next time.
Bye.
All right. Wrapping it up tonight. And thank you, everybody who stuck around a little later than usual. But I mean, so many good calls.
Yeah.
How could we not? So welcome to the show, Rand. Rand, how you doing, friend?
Bad. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for staying on to listen to my musings here.
Hey, and you are the ultimate caller tonight.
I am the ultimate.
Yes. How are you going to wrap up our show tonight?
The one thing that really stuck in my craw, could they not get Dr. Crusher a chair on the bridge? Like she's hanging out back there at Tactical, and part of me was like, that's kind of rude, but part of me was like, maybe she's ready for Tactical now because she's had this experience where she's kind of like, Worf, budge up. Let me get in there.
I mean, look, this is for sure that next week we will not just be seeing Beverly in sickbay just waiting for people to come in. She is going to be kick-ass Rambo Beverly. Yeah.
I'm here for it.
For sure. Yeah.
And I'm a total sucker for all of the fan service stuff. And I always have been. I will apologize for anything that holes, anything, right? I love that. So like when the crew got back on the bridge, like I actively avoided spoilers, and I heard everyone saying, I'm not going to spoil, but it's going to be amazing what you're going to see. And I was there for it. And I'm tears rolling down my eyes and like, looking over at my wife and stuff. And as excited as I was for the crew to get back on the bridge, I was also super excited for the cast to get back on the bridge. And I want to see that behind the scenes of the principal players from TNG, like rediscovering the bridge and getting back into that group for the first time. I'm hoping that comes out on the DVD or some special materials. I really want to see that.
There have been a lot of good pictures going around lately, like Doug and Mike and Denise and Will Wheaton and a handful of other people.
Frakes went over because he was shooting something else when they had just finished it, so he ran over. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Cool, and hopefully we will get more of that. Yeah.
The only thing I'll close with is I would have accepted, because it's a new crew. It's it's Picard's new body, the new Data body, and I feel Wesley was slightly absent in there, and Will Wheaton has talked about it in the ready room of having that sibling rivalry. I would have accepted Jack Crusher coming in and sitting at Wesley Station and having Picard be like, you know what? Shut up, Jack.
Oh. That's the only thing we were missing. Yeah. You know what? I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have felt like Wesley has gotten a bit of short shrift in this whole thing. And that's unfortunate, because, he had his moment in last season, but for him to be just like the entire center of the story on this other guy who replaces the son of Beverly Crusher feels strange. It feels a bit odd to me. Yeah. All All right. Well, who knows? Hey, they still have
Well,
another
yeah,
week
people
to
in the chat
fit
are
in.
like, yet. Yeah.
Yeah, right. We still have another week. Yeah. Rand, anything else tonight, or we're gonna see you again sometime?
No, let's all go get to bed here. Us on the East Coast.
All right, man. Get to bed, and we will see you soon. Take care. Have a good night.
Good night. Thanks,
All
everybody.
right. Holly, thanks so much. We did it. We did the penultimate episode, and I look forward to you and Norm on the ultimate episode.
I'm gonna cry again. It's gonna be.
I know you will. You better
be
record it
crying.
and post reaction.
I don't know if I have enough space on my phone to record 40 minutes again.
Yeah,
We'll
get rid of. Yeah, you can make room. Get rid of stuff you don't need. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Well,
All
I
right.
was doing that today.
Okay. Well, with that, Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Technical production on Mission Log and Mission Log Live by the intractable Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from Roddenberry Podcasts. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/Mission Log. Special thanks to Holly, who is fantastic here on Mission Log Live. Thank you to everyone who joined us live or later. We look forward to reviewing the final episode of Star Trek Picard with Holly and Norm on Mission Log Live next week.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.